get on the ground.
I have a patient bleeding out in the OR. Check the roster.
I don't care what you have. You are making a mistake that will cost you everything.
That's a threat. You're threatening an officer.
The command echoes off the concrete walls of the parking structure, distorted by the poor acoustics of the sub-basement level. The audio captures the distinct, metallic click of a baton expanding. Dr. Marcus Sterling, dressed in dark scrubs with a heavy gray hoodie zipped over them, holds his hands up, palms open, but he does not drop to his knees. I have a patient bleeding out in the OR. Check the roster. His voice is steady, low, and devoid of the panic usually associated with trespassers, yet his body is angled toward the elevator, indicating a desperate need to move forward. Officer Gary Thorne, a private security contractor, steps into the fluorescent light, closing the distance to less than 3 feet. He does not check a roster. I don't care what you have. I said get on the ground or I will put you there. The body camera worn on Thorne's chest heaves with his accelerated breathing, the lens shaking violently as he reaches for Sterling's shoulder. Quote 3. Sterling says, his tone shifting from explanatory to authoritative. He takes a half step back, creating a defensive gap. Quote 4. Thorne interprets the retreat as a prelude to flight. Quote. The audio peaks as Thorne lunges, the camera view tumbling into a blur of gray cotton and concrete as the physical altercation begins. Dr. Marcus Sterling is 48 years old. He is the chief of trauma surgery at St. Jude's Medical Center, a level 1 trauma facility in downtown Philadelphia. His annual salary exceeds $1.2 million, and his hands, currently being wrenched behind his back, are insured for an additional $5 million. On the night of November 14th, he was called in specifically for a complex aortic repair on a police officer shot in the line of duty. Sterling had parked in his reserved spot, marked quote 6, driving a vehicle registered to his name, and was walking the 40 yards to the staff elevator entrance. He has worked at St. Jude's for 15 years and has saved thousands of lives within the building's walls. Officer Gary Thorne is 32 years old and has been employed by SecureKeep, the hospital's contracted security firm, for 8 months. His hourly wage is $18. Prior to this position, Thorne applied to the Philadelphia Police Academy 3 times, failing the psychological evaluation twice, and the physical agility test once. Employment records subpoenaed later would reveal 4 formal complaints against Thorne in his short tenure at the hospital. 3 from minority staff members citing Chachos, quote, 7, and 1 from a patient's family member alleging intimidation. Thorne viewed the staff entrance as his primary domain, a checkpoint where he held absolute authority over who entered the sterile environment of the hospital. Here is the first question for you to consider, and I want you to leave your answer in the comments below. When a security officer issues a command that contradicts a civilian's urgent lawful purpose, such as a surgeon rushing to an operation, is the civilian morally or legally obligated to comply immediately, even if it endangers a third party? Or does the urgency of saving a life supersede the authority of a private guard? Pause the video and let me know your reasoning. The setting of this incident plays a crucial role in the psychological priming of Officer Thorne. The St. Jude's staff parking garage is located in a subterranean level that had recently undergone renovations to improve lighting, yet it remains a stark, industrial space characterized by cold concrete and shadows. The hospital sits on the border of a rapidly gentrifying neighborhood, creating a stark economic divide. To the north are luxury condominiums, to the south, underfunded public housing. This geographic tension filters into the security culture of the hospital. Memos circulated by SecureKeep management in the months leading up to the incident emphasized perimeter integrity and warned of an increase in catalytic converter thefts and vagrancy in the parking structures. The air temperature on this November night was 34 degrees. The sensory environment of the garage, the low hum of ventilation fans, the smell of exhaust and damp concrete, creates a sense of isolation. There are no witnesses. There is no public oversight. In this vacuum, the power dynamic is determined solely by the individuals present. For Dr. Sterling, the garage is simply a transit point, a negligible distance between his car and his operating theater. For Officer Thorne, the garage is a defensive perimeter, and anyone who does not fit his visual profile of medical staff represents a breach of that perimeter. Psychologically, Dr. Sterling operates under a framework of institutional belonging. He owns a home 3 miles away. His name is on the wall in the lobby, and he has parked in the same spot for a decade. He does not perceive himself as a suspect because his reality is defined by his high status and critical function. When he encounters resistance, his cognitive response is confusion, followed by frustration at the inefficiency. He assumes that stating his role will be sufficient because in his daily life, his orders are followed without question. He is not prepared for a scenario where his authority is unrecognized. Conversely, Officer Thorne is operating under confirmation bias and threat rigidity. Upon seeing a black male in a hoodie walking rapidly toward a restricted elevator at 2 a.m., his brain categorizes the subject as an intruder before a single word is exchanged. The hoodie, worn for warmth, overrides the scrubs in Thorne's visual processing. Thorne has likely rehearsed this scenario in his mind, the moment he stops a dangerous criminal. When Sterling refuses to submit to the initial command, it does not signal to Thorne that Sterling is a busy professional. Instead, it confirms Thorne's suspicion that Sterling is non-compliant and therefore dangerous. The chief of surgery parking placard on Sterling's Mercedes, visible 20 feet away, is ignored entirely. The escalation begins at 02:14:03 a.m. The body camera footage reveals the exact moment verbal communication breaks down and physical force becomes the primary language of the interaction. "I need to see ID. Wallet, now," Thorne demands, blocking the path to the elevator call button. His hand hovers over the taser on his belt. The audio picks up the rustle of synthetic fabric as he shifts his stance to a bladed orientation, a fighting posture. Sterling gestures with his head toward his pants pocket, his hands still raised to chest level. "My badge is in my right pocket. The lanyard broke. If you let me reach for it, we can end this." "Don't you reach for anything!" Thorne screams, stepping forward again. The distance between them closes to 18 inches. "You reach, you bleed. Hands on the wall." "Officer, listen to me," Sterling says, his voice dropping an octave, an attempt to de-escalate through calmness. "A police officer is on the table upstairs. I am the only one who can repair the tear in his aorta. Every second you waste is draining his life." "I don't believe you," Thorne spits back. "You don't look like a surgeon. You look like a guy trying to steal oxy from the pharmacy. Turn around." At 02:14:45, a critical contradiction occurs. Thorne claims into his radio, "Dispatch, I have a suspect, aggressive, refusing commands, reaching for waistband." However, the video evidence shows Sterling's hands are clearly visible at shoulder height, palms open, nowhere near his waistband. Thorne is fabricating a narrative of danger to justify the escalation he is about to initiate. He is creating a paper trail of audio evidence to cover his liability, a common tactic among officers who intend to use force. "I am going to the elevator," Sterling announces. He lowers his hands slowly and attempts to step around Thorne. This is the trigger. "Back off!" Thorne shouts. The camera jerks violently at 02:15:10 as Thorne deploys his collapsible baton. He strikes Sterling in the back of the knee, a perineal strike intended to cause motor dysfunction. Sterling buckles but does not fall. He spins around, catching himself on a concrete pillar. "Are you insane? I am Dr. Marcus Sterling." "Stop resisting!" Thorne yells, overriding the identification. He holsters the baton and tackles Sterling into the pillar. The sound of Sterling's head impacting the concrete is audible, a dull, sickening thud. At 02:15:30, they are on the ground. Thorne is on top, applying his full body weight to Sterling's diaphragm. "Give me your hands." Thorne twists Sterling's right arm, the arm of a vascular surgeon, up behind his back at an angle that threatens the rotator cuff. "My hand! Watch my hand!" Sterling cries out, the first sign of genuine pain in his voice. "I need my hands to work." "You should have thought of that before you trespassed," Thorne growls, ratcheting the arm higher. The mechanical whir of handcuffs tightening follows immediately. Here is the second dilemma, and this is a complicated one legally. I want your opinion in the comments. If a person knows they are innocent and holds a position of high authority, does attempting to walk away from a detained stop justify the use of physical force by security? Does walking away constitute resistance that warrants a baton strike and a takedown? Where is the line? The sequence from 02:16 to 02:18 represents the stabilization phase, though medically, it is the most dangerous for Dr. Sterling. He is face down on the cold concrete. Thorne is kneeling on his upper back, restricting his ability to expand his lungs. Dispatch, suspect in custody. Thorne pants into his radio. One male, black. No ID on person. Suspect is combative. Check my pocket, Sterling wheezes, his face pressed against the oil-stained floor. Right. Pocket. Thorne ignores the request. Instead, he begins a pat-down that is rough and punitive. He finds the wallet in the back pocket first. He pulls it out and opens it close to the camera lens. The driver's license is visible. The address listed is in the exclusive Society Hill district. Thorne pauses for a fraction of a second, his thumb hovering over the address, but he says nothing. He tosses the wallet aside. We'll let the real cops sort you out, Thorne sneers. The turning point arrives at 02:21:15, signaled not by a dramatic explosion, but by the arrival of flashing blue lights reflecting off the garage walls. 2 Philadelphia Police Department cruisers screeched to a halt near the elevator bank. These officers were already at the hospital, escorting the wounded officer who was awaiting surgery. They had come down because the OR team reported the chief surgeon was missing. Sergeant Miller, a veteran officer, exits the first vehicle. He sees Thorne kneeling on a man in scrubs. Miller's body language is relaxed initially, assuming the security guard has caught a vagrant. He approaches slowly. "What do we have, Gary?" Miller asks, recognizing Thorne from previous interactions. "Caught him trying to sneak up the staff elevator," Thorne reports, puffing his chest out. "Claimed he was a doctor, got aggressive, had to put him down." Miller shines his flashlight on the suspect. The beam hits Dr. Sterling's face. The recognition is instantaneous. Miller freezes. The audio captures a sharp intake of breath. "Get off him," Miller says. His voice is quiet, deadly serious. Thorne looks up, confused. "Sarge, he was resisting." "Get the hell off him right now!" Miller roars, physically shoving Thorne off of Dr. Sterling. "Do you know who this is?" Thorne stumbles back, his hand going to his belt. "He's a trespasser, no ID." Miller ignores Thorne and immediately kneels beside Sterling, pulling a key to unlock the handcuffs. "Dr. Sterling, Doc, are you all right?" Sterling rolls over, clutching his right wrist. He checks the articulation of his fingers immediately, a surgeon's reflex. "My wrist feels sprained. How is Officer Reynolds? Is he still stable?" Even in the dirt, in handcuffs, Sterling's priority remains the patient. "He's critical, Doc. They're prepping him now," Miller replies, helping Sterling to his feet. Thorne is standing 5 feet away. The camera captures his face as the realization washes over him. His mouth hangs slightly open. His eyes dart from Miller to Sterling, then to the chief of surgery parking sign visible over Sterling's shoulder. The adrenaline dump crashes. His posture collapses from aggressive to defensive. He takes a step back. He didn't show ID," Thorne stammers, his voice trembling. "He refused to show ID." "I told you it was in my pocket," Sterling says, brushing the dust off his scrubs. He looks at Thorne with a gaze that is clinical and dissecting. "And I told you that you were making a mistake." Miller turns to Thorne. "You handcuffed the man who was supposed to save one of our own. You baton-struck the chief of surgery?" "I was just doing my job," Thorne whispers. "You're done," Miller says. "Stay right there. Don't you move an inch." Dr. Sterling does not stay to argue. He does not scream. He limps toward the elevator, rubbing his wrist. "I have to scrub in. If my wrist is compromised, I'll need Dr. Evans to take lead. Secure that footage, Sergeant." The legal and financial aftermath of this incident was not instantaneous. It was a slow, grinding process of bureaucratic destruction for Officer Thorne and the security company. Justice in the legal system is rarely swift, but in this case, the documentation was overwhelming. Dr. Sterling performed the surgery that night, though he required a brace on his right wrist and had to delegate the finer suturing to an attending surgeon due to swelling. The officer survived. 3 days later, Secure Keep fired Gary Thorne for violation of use of force policy and failure to follow identification protocols. However, the termination was only the beginning. Dr. Sterling retained a high-profile civil rights firm. The lawsuit filed against Secure Keep and the hospital management named Thorne individually as well. The breakdown of the legal complaint focused on 3 areas: assault and battery, false imprisonment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Furthermore, Sterling's lawyers argued that Secure Keep was negligent in hiring Thorne, given his history of failed psychological evaluations with the police department. The forensic evidence, specifically the body cam footage showing Sterling's hands raised and the time-stamped contradiction of Thorne's radio call claiming he was reaching, was the linchpin of the case. It proved malice. It proved the narrative was constructed to hide bias. The settlement was reached 14 months later, just weeks before a jury trial was set to begin. Secure Keep's insurance providers, recognizing the catastrophic potential of a jury seeing the chief of surgery in handcuffs while a hero cop lay dying upstairs, opted to pay. The total settlement was $11 million. Gary Thorne was also charged criminally. The Philadelphia District Attorney's Office charged him with simple assault and reckless endangerment. He accepted a plea deal to avoid jail time, 2 years of probation, mandatory anger management, and a permanent ban from holding a security license in the state of Pennsylvania. Here is the final question for the comments. The settlement was $11 million, paid mostly by insurance. Gary Thorne lost his job and his license, but avoided prison time. Do you believe this is sufficient justice? Does a financial payout to a wealthy doctor fix the systemic issue? Or should the security guard have faced actual incarceration for the physical assault? Let me know your thoughts. Today, Dr. Marcus Sterling continues to lead the trauma unit at St. Jude's. He used a portion of the settlement money to establish a legal defense fund for lower-income hospital staff, nurses and janitors, who face harassment or profiling from security and police. He has also implemented a new policy at the hospital. All security personnel must undergo implicit bias training, and the hiring standards have been raised to require prior de-escalation certification. Gary Thorne is currently unemployed in the security sector. Public records indicate he is working in a warehouse distribution center. He is currently facing a separate civil suit from the hospital seeking to recoup legal fees, a financial burden that will likely lead to personal bankruptcy. This case serves as a stark, documented example of how authority is perceived through the lens of bias. Officer Thorne saw a black man in a hoodie and saw a threat to his territory. He could not cognitively process the possibility that the man he was assaulting was the most powerful person in the building. The camera, however, holds no bias. It records the milliseconds of hesitation, the tone of voice, and the undeniable truth of the encounter. The camera captures the reality that even at the highest levels of professional success, the presumption of innocence can be stripped away in seconds by someone with a badge and a preconceived notion of who belongs and who does not. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.